I've just had this houseplant delivered to my home and I need to get it in tip-top shape so that it can be living its absolute best life. I'll talk about why crooked leaves like this spell catastrophe, why this will eventually lead to its downfall, and why fertilizing him would be a disaster, so there's lots to get into to put this guy right. So this fella is a Monstera, and I've already named him Speckled Jim, and you'll see why in a sec. He's not just any Monstera, no, he's the hipster trendy type, a Monstera Thai constellation. If you're not sure what the difference is, then check out the leaves. White speckles are marbling, hence the name I've christened him with, Speckled Jim. The white speckles gives it the appearance of the starry night sky, and it originated from Thailand, so we end up with Thai constellation. Genius! Anyway, Speckled Jim was introduced to the channel not long ago as part of my unboxing video from Amazon. Yeah, that's right, I got this guy off Amazon. Who knew you could buy exotic rare plants from the world's largest online marketplace, Amazon, and be happy with your purchase? There, I've already given you 2 TV references for you to get your teeth into. The first one, to get them both correct in the comments, will get the admiration you deserve from me and all your peers. Anyway, I highly recommend you check out the video because I was expecting to be delivered a dog. Not literally that is, but I ended up receiving this stallion. Ooh. It's massive. Looks like a plant. This isn't a cutting, is it? This is a fully fledged plant. I'm gushing because this was sold as a rooted cutting for only £50, which is about $75. And as you can see, he's much more than a cutting. He's practically a fully fledged plant. Cuttings don't normally come with 7 leaves and a well-established root system after all. So I got a bargain. But that doesn't mean there aren't a few things that need sorting out to make Speckled Jim happy. The first thing you should always check when you've just bought a Monstera, or even if you're in the shop ready to part with your hard-earned money, is to check how many plants you've actually got. Most of the time there will be at least 2 or 3 individual plants in there, and this can present a problem or two. First, having more than one plant in the same pot means that things will get pretty crowded in there pretty quickly. Monsteras tend to have large, chunky, ramen-like roots and they grow like wildfire, so having more than one in the pot won't be ideal. And second, it's going to be much more difficult to train your dragon to climb up a support, and supporting your Monstera will be the best thing you can do for it. I'll show you why this is a problem when I get to supporting Speckled Jim here later in the video. So how can you tell how many plants you've actually got? Luckily, this is dead simple because Monsteras only grow a single dominant vine with leaves shooting off it. As you can see, Speckled Jim is a singleton. If he was married with kids, you'd see more than one stem coming from the soil. If he was cohabiting the pot, then I'd be forcing him to divorce by potting them all into separate pots. Luckily though, I won't have to inflict that trauma on our Speckled Jim here. Coming up, I talk about crooked stems, cages, and why giving fertilizer is the worst thing you can do. But first, let me point you in the direction of my free plant problems troubleshooting handbook that you can download for free now. It's got all the common plant problems you'll face, like yellowing, brown tips and mushy stems, why they happen, and what you need to do to fix them in a simple guide that you can keep on your phone, and it's completely for free. Check out the details in the description. Now the first thing I noticed when I got this bad boy out of the box was the leaves, and I'm not talking about how beautiful they are. Obviously I noticed that too, but there are a couple of other things that caught my attention. My Inspector Clouseau senses tell me that Jim has been living in a spot that gets good light, which is great. The leaves are big, well fenestrated, and even have perforations in the middle of the latest leaf. All hallmarks of a plant soaking up the rays on a sun lounger. But looking at the plant from the front, you'll notice that all the leaves are facing any which way, and this is something that needs correcting. This suggests to me that Speckled Jim has been moved around a lot, or light has been coming in from all sorts of different angles, so we didn't know whether it was coming or going, the poor fella. It's my belief that a Monstera, as well as any other climbing plant for that matter, looks so much better when facing in one direction. And to achieve that, the light needs to shine on him from one source and be constant. I mean, check out the petioles on this leaf. Doing the twist and shout, isn't it? And a sure sign the light source has been moving around like no one's business. Compare that to Mickey, my other younger Monstera, that I've kept facing the light in the same direction since he was conceived, and you can see just how crooked Jim is. And I hate the way Jim's leaves face up as if the light was shining right down on him from directly above. The leaves should always be facing forward like Mickey here. Anyway, all of this can be corrected. It just needs me to pick a spot in my home and leave him alone, and you'll see where I pick later. The leaves should eventually start to all face the same way. When Jim first arrived, one of the first things I did was check out his private parts. Don't worry, it was consensual, I think. Anyway, it's always a great idea to check the health of the roots of any new plant before going any further. It's the engine room to the ship after all. Is there anything black and mushy that needs sorting out? If this is the case and it's a new plant, then I'd send it back. The seller shouldn't be selling anything with rotting roots. And then, is it significantly root bound? Luckily for us, Speckled Jim was in pretty darn good shape. Absolutely nothing to worry about with the roots. A cheeky little tip from me is that a Monstera can afford to be a little root bound. In fact, if a Monstera has tons of room to spread its wings, or toes I guess, then that's exactly what it will do. Grow roots like a madman and kind of forget about the leaves. This just means new leaves take longer to come out. So I wouldn't normally repot a Monstera straight from the store, but in this case you'll notice that Jim doesn't have anything to lean onto, and I want to correct this. So yes, the best Monsteras out there have a support system to help them grow big and strong. It's how they grow in the wild after all, and we should always mimic their natural growth habit as much as possible in our homes. They latch onto surrounding trees in the jungle with their aerial roots and hoist themselves higher up the jungle to get a better view of the sun. And this is exactly what we should help them do. Grow vertically rather than horizontally. You can support with anything you like as long as it's sturdy enough to support the plant. Lee at Kill This Plant uses tree trunks and his Monsteras are the best in the business. I tried using bamboo sticks for Molly the Monster in my bedroom, and to be honest, it's not really working out. Much too flimsy. So for Speckled Jim here, I'm going to use a moss pole. Now this is a great idea for any Monstera because once the plant starts climbing up, it will grow its aerial roots into the moss and strengthen itself in the process. This turns your plant from spotty teenager to fully fledged responsible adult much quicker than without one. The result? Bigger and bigger leaves with more and more fenestrations, and who doesn't love that, right? As you can see though, the only problem is that the stem is already hanging out the side of the pot, so it's going to be tricky to get the plant and the moss pole all in the same pot. Let's make up the moss pole first and then see how we get on. Now I like to use plastic cages I buy from Amazon, and it's just a case of filling it with sphagnum moss from Cybertanica. The beauty of these is that they can easily be stacked to keep up with Speckled Jim's growth. So where does the moss pole need to go? Basically on Jim's backside. A Monstera stem will have a front and a back. The front is where the leaves face and the back is where the aerial roots are. The aim of the game is to stick the pole up against the back so that the roots can grow into the moss and Jim can grow vertically. Look, you can see a couple of the aerial roots have already started growing into the soil. Right, let's pull Jim's trousers down and expose his private parts. The soil he's been living in seems pretty decent, but I want to upgrade him to a chunkier aroid mix specifically for Monsteras from Cybertanica. I used my 10% discount code when buying this mix, and you can too by following the link in the description to this video. I've nabbed a slightly bigger pot so that I can hopefully fit the moss pole and the plant in, but honestly it's going to be a tight squeeze for our Jim. But the beauty of moss poles is that once the roots start to grow into it, the root ball at the base of the plant becomes a little less significant. Basically, the pole becomes an extension of the pot, so root growth in the pot should slow down. That's the theory anyway. So I'm putting the pole at the back of the pot and plonking Jim's behind right up against it. The aerial roots are up against the pole and the leaves are facing away. This is important. As you can see, it's a bit tricky to fit everything in. Plus, Jim is kind of lurching forwards a bit, but this should hopefully correct itself once he's settled in and facing the light properly. We backfill the pot now and make sure everything is nice and snug, and then give everything a thorough drink. Watering deeply like this is important to settle the soil around the roots. Don't skimp here. Right, I've got another crucial tip for you that will stop you killing your new plant before you've even had a chance to start enjoying him. This doesn't just apply to Monsteras, but any plant. You'll no doubt know that to get your Popeye to go all muscly and hyped up, you need to give him his tin of spinach. Don't worry, no spinach is required. That's just a weird analogy for giving your plant some fertilizer. I give all my plants Houseplant Focus by Growth Technology whenever they're growing, and it sure does make them sing. But there is a warning here. Never give a new plant fertilizer for at least a couple of months. Never. Sorry mate, you're going on a fast for 60 days. Don't argue with me, it's for your own good. The crux of it is this. I have no idea when Speckled Jim's last meal was and what it was either. He could have been given slow release pellets in the soil last week. If I was to top him up with yet more, he'll turn into the whale in no time. And you know what that means, don't you? These gloriously green leaves with white speckles will turn yellow. Yellow enough for me to get the Sheffield May plant's bin out again. So that's Jim pretty much all set up now. The last step is to find a spot in my home that gets bright light and leave him to do his thing there. Which is a bugger because getting high light in my home is near enough impossible thanks to my climate. So this means he'll be spending his days under this fancy grow bulb I've got plugged into this lamp. And I use my 15% discount here too when buying this bad boy, and you could do the same by going you know where. Make sure you check out Speckled Jim's first appearance on the channel by following the link here. I'll see you next time.